Hello, everyone. We have reached the end of Revelation, and with these final 2 chapters come eternal life with God. Chapter 21 begins with these words, quote, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God," end quote. At this point, our new and forever life has begun. God is with us now and forever. This is what we have spent a lifetime believing and thinking about, and it will all be wonderful. As I read verse 4 of Revelation 21, I admit to being a bit taken back. All I have heard from pastors all my life is, there will be no tears or pain in heaven. I now have to question that teaching because verse 4 says, quote, "God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away," end quote. Wait a minute. Is Revelation really saying all that we have been taught about this may not be true? Verse 4 is very clear that no tears or pain happens on the new earth, not the old earth, which includes the present heaven. I believe we've been misled. How could that have happened? Remember what I have often said. Pastors and priests do not read the entire Bible in seminary, and Revelation is one of the books not only not read there, but one of many Martin Luther said, "Do not read and do not teach." Many pastors and priests are now finally reading Revelation for the first time. I pray this leads them to correct this biblical error. As we continue, God is clearly happy to finally be on the new earth among his people. But he again reminds us in verse 8, the following people will not be there: the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, of which we sure have a lot of people there in that category today, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars. As I looked over this list, all made sense, but I wondered who is included in the word cowardly. Some believe this word applies to those who failed to turn their lives over to Christ and trust him. I, however, think the word applies to those who didn't witness because they would rather have been liked. That is cowardly as well as disobedient. That can be a tough job to do, but there is no out. Are people placed in this cowardly category for failure to witness? I wonder. These days, the sexually immoral category includes an awful lot of people. So, is heaven getting smaller by the day? Verses 9 through 27 describe the New Jerusalem. It is incredible and deserves your reading its description for yourself. Made of precious jewels, it must be amazing to see. God makes it clear that there is no temple in this city. Why would that be? First, there is no need for anyone to teach, even one tiny thing about Jesus. We are there because we have been taught, and accepted that teaching. Second, verse 22 says, God and Jesus are among the people and are its temple. We are also told in verse 23 that there will be no sun or moon because the glory of God gives all the light we will ever need. In chapter 22, the last chapter of Revelation, we see a river, which is as clear as crystal. It flows from God's throne. I have always loved water, so I'm thrilled that I'll live forever by the most beautiful water I have ever seen, even though I thought that was in Florida. On each side of the river is the tree of life, which produces 12 crops of fruit, one every month. I'd be willing to bet it'll be the best fruit we've ever tasted. In verse 7, we hear these words of an angel, quote, "Blessed is the one who keeps the words of the prophecy written in this scroll," end quote. Now stop for a moment and think. How can anyone keep the words of Revelation if he or she has never read it or heard it? Answer, it isn't possible. What a disservice Martin Luther did telling people not to read Revelation. What was he thinking? His declaration goes against the words of Jesus that began this Bible book. Jesus says, quote, "Blessed is the one who reads the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it and take it to heart," end quote. Luther did an incredible thing for God when he stood against the Catholic Church for their violation of the Bible via the selling of indulgences to cover sin. But his direction to people to not read Revelation and many other books of the Bible has led generations of Christians to follow Luther rather than the words of Jesus in Revelation. Here is my earnest plea to you. Please read Revelation and encourage others to do so, as well as all the other books of the Bible. What is your excuse? Is it your church that follows Luther's directive? Doesn't matter. God gave each of us a lifetime to read the only book he ever wrote. You and I may have read many books, so why not the only book that will ever really matter? What excuse will you have standing before God if you choose not to read it? In verse 16 of Revelation 22, Jesus says, quote, "I have sent my angel to give you this testimony for the churches," end quote. How did Martin Luther miss this? Jesus goes on to warn everyone not to add any words to Revelation or take any words away. Please do me a favor. When a Jehovah's Witness knocks on your door, invite them in and share these words of Revelation with them. Their leaders change the words here and in other places of the Bible all the time. Jesus has the following words for them and others who do this. Quote, "God will add that person to the plagues described in this scroll and will take away from that person any share in the tree of life and in the holy city, which are described in this scroll," end quote. Lead the Jehovah's Witness and others to the scary truth described here. Thanks for listening. We have now completed Revelation. I believe this book is so important that next week I will review it before we move on. I firmly believe in reviews, and I hope this one will help you and others. See you Thursday.